This podcast is brought to you by Bonus Room Productions and We Own This Town.
I am Jason T. Meares, Esquire.
And I'm Kelly Hoyle Bolick.
And we are Dimas Today. How's it going, Kelly?
Oh, gonna go back in time.
Yes. Oh, man.
Gonna go back in time.
I'm so excited about this episode. I cannot
That's
wait.
right.
Today, guys, we're going to talk all about time travel in pop culture, movies, TV. Going to get a little bit of history of it. We're going to talk about some of our favorites, some of the rules of time travel. This is an episode that we've been looking forward to doing for quite a while.
Right. We've time traveled with this idea for a while.
Yeah, we've had to bump it because we've had some excellent guests come on and we've had some stuff, so it's had to be bumped around. But
before we get into time travel, we've had some most excellent news today regarding casting.
Oh, yes, we have. Like, I love it when we're getting ready to record and we're going in, and before we turn the mics on, we check the news feeds, and we see that there's actually been casting news. So we're getting it, like, high energy stuff.
And even before that, just in case anyone's worried, New Orleans is flooding, but the set of Bill and Ted 3 is not. They are dry right now.
Right now, but there are concerns with the Hurricane Barry, which is ironically named considering the villain in Bill and Ted 3. You know,
is NoHo Hank from Barry?
Right, exactly.
Oh,
So
man. Bringing it around, baby.
I saw that and I heard the man go, Barry, and I was just, oh man,
so good.
But I hope everyone stays dry and safe down there. I'm hoping to get down there next week, but with the hurricane, I might not be able to, which is a super bummer. But that's a much less bummer than people actually dealing with flooding and hurricanes.
Okay.
Hope everyone's safe. Hope the crew's safe. Hope the movie is able to keep producing and filming and moving forward. But here's the casting news we got today.
All right, lay it on me.
Okay, I'm going to start out with the first one here. This is Holland Taylor. She is an Emmy-winning actress from The Practice. She's been all over the place. She's done some voices for Disney animation. She's
a lot of authoritative roles, right?
Absolutely. I recall in Legally Blonde, she was the authoritative person for Reese Witherspoon, who was definitely the person who was the main actress in that film. She's going to be playing the great leader in Face the Music, which is interesting. I'm wondering if this is going to be one of the three most important people.
Right. Like the Clarence Clemens, he seemed to be the leader in the first movie.
Well, he did the highest up.
That's right. He was the highest up, and he's the big man.
Right, exactly. So interesting that this is going to be the person basically in charge of the future. She's probably going to send back the Rufus-type character, Kelly, to the past to make sure that Bill and Ted write the song. It's just interesting that now they have the great leader, not the three most important people. And it's also interesting to me that this is an actress and not a musician.
Right.
Which, okay, cool. It would have been neat to find somebody who fit both those categories, but I'm trusting in the process.
Right. There's things we don't know yet, so hey.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm excited to see her in the film. I think she's going to do a great job.
Okay, so now expand on this Rufus-type character.
This Rufus-type character.
With a great first name, by the way.
Yeah. First name, Kelly. Great name. Also the name of George Carlin's daughter. I think we've discussed this in the past. So we're speculating that Kelly is going to be Rufus's daughter. It just seems like a fair assumption. Might not be the case.
Right. Could be a scenario. The character shows up. Bill and Ted don't find out the lineage until later in the movie. Something like that.
Right. Or there could be nothing there. But I don't think the writers would do that. So this role has also been cast, and we just found out about this today. Kristen Schaal. Yeah. Oh, man. Awesome. I'm so excited. I love her.
She's great.
I love her. I've seen her live do stand-up. She did this amazing little bit where she did a one-woman show about Emily Dickinson. It was hilarious. It was before a live reading of Bob's Burgers. Love Bob's Burgers, right? She's just Flight of the Conchords. Oh, man. Everything she is in, she makes better. She's just
fantastic on Last Man on Earth.
Yes. I mean, she's great. She is great. She is in probably the best episode of What We Do in the Shadows ever, and has an amazing part in that. I can't talk about it because if you haven't seen it, it ruins it. Definitely watch that show. Anyway, so stoked. She's not Helen Mirren, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
But if you're not getting Helen Mirren for a role, get Kristen Schaal.
So we seem to have a theme going on here.
We do.
A lot of female roles in this movie.
Yes, which is awesome.
I think it's great, yeah.
But I've noticed a lot of backlash online and fan forums, Facebook pages, things like that. And it's really a bummer, man.
It's really specific to the daughters, right?
The daughters, yeah. So a lot of people are complaining about the fact that Bill and Ted have daughters. I've seen so many people complaining. They're like, well, Bill and Ted had sons in Bogus Journey. And it's like, dudes, that's your own assumption. You know, that's your own bias that you're bringing into this thing. They never said it was sons or daughters. Ed Solomon addressed this in a tweet, did he not?
He did address it in a tweet. He makes a great point, I think. First of all, Little Bill and Little Ted were actually played by female baby actors. And then the second thing he points out is that, you know, and I think his best argument for justifying this move is the fact that they would be redundant in having the children grow up to be boys and then make them just like Bill and Ted.
Because we've already seen that.
We've already seen that. We've seen that with Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
And so case closed.
Right. So just keep an open mind, guys. You know, just be excellent to each other. Don't let this toxic fandom creep into something as pure and beautiful as Bill and Ted, because it is all about joy and love and togetherness and friendship and being upset because you thought two babies were boys and they turned out to be girls. It just slow your roll, guys. Slow your rolls. And I don't want to see any grousing about the fact that the Rufus type character is now being played by a woman. The great leader in the future is a woman. That it just stop, guys. There's no need. I just see the backlash, but
we've had enough film and television and works of fiction that have had it the other way.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So let's enjoy what we're doing here.
Also, some other news. I don't know if we've addressed this yet, but I want to get this out there. Photos from the set confirm that Gandhi is going to be in the next film as a historical person, and Sacagawea.
Right, and then I don't know that we mentioned, looks like Kid Cudi will be playing Jimi Hendrix.
Right, which, yes, the photo of that just looks
he
great.
looks fantastic.
Yeah. I know next week, down in the week that this episode drops, they're going to be shooting a scene involving Revolutionary War folks. So they've done a big casting call for people to be Revolutionary War reenactors.
Yeah, that's
down
great.
There. So that'll be
and
neat.
then I think they just confirmed that Beck Bennett from SNL shot his first scene as Deacon Logan.
Awesome. I'm so excited. I'm so excited, man. We are like just over a year away from seeing this movie. And something else Ed Solomon tweeted recently, which I found refreshing and kind of helped me adjust my expectations a little bit. Not in a good or bad way, but he talked about the relationship between Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey. And what he liked most about Bogus Journey was that it was its own film. It wasn't just a rehash of the first one.
Exactly.
And he very, very explicitly said this third movie is its own movie as well. So if you're going in expecting like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure only done 30 years later, it's not going to be that.
Right. And I'm of the opinion that this is what good screenwriters do.
Yes. Yes. It's the Gremlins 2 thing, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about this ad nauseum at this point.
Okay, so let's get into this time travel discussion we've been meaning to have. One of the great parts of Bill and Ted, I mean, it's the feature of Excellent Adventure that they travel in time in a phone booth. Some folks may not realize this out there, but that is not the first iteration of time travel in popular culture.
What?
Yeah. And so yours truly has done some half-assed internet research on the history of time travel in society. Right?
Oh, excellent.
You know, and looking back, it seems to me that time travel, sort of the modern way we think of time travel, was popularized with H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. This was published in 1895. Now, it certainly wasn't the first iteration of time travel. It's just that that's when it really became kind of a science fiction concept.
And wasn't that kind of one of the first science fiction like works, period? I mean,
maybe, like, I'm not sure where Jules Verne's stuff fits in.
Yeah.
Now, like, I did a little more digging, and just time travel as a concept, right? So that was found in ancient Jewish, Hindu, and Japanese mythology, just going back thousands of years. And then novels. So time travel was really used as sort of a sleep dream thing, and novels that date back prior to The Time Machine. You had Rip Van Winkle.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he sleeps and then wakes up and everything's changed. You have Dickens' Christmas Carol.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So forward, backward in time via his, like, dreams,
right.
so to speak. Twain's Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. That's a time travel dream.
Yes, it is.
And so, you know, you had it kind of building, I think, towards The Time Machine. And then from everything I've gathered, that became very popular, you know, especially in America and England, I think, when that
and I've got
book came out.
to correct myself. I was completely off base with the one of the first science fiction things. I mean, this stuff goes way back. You're absolutely right. I was just
Some of this was news to me. I did not know a lot of this before.
I mean, think about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, right? That's total sci-fi.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, from there, one of our favorite books, Slaughterhouse-Five,
Yes,
has a great concept of being unstuck in time, right? God, it almost felt like the precursor to like sort of modern film direction, where you just like splice in, the Tarantino kind of style of just splicing in different
we're gonna,
timelines, right?
We're gonna do some top of lists here in a bit, and one of my films definitely recalls that. So.
Okay, great. One cool thing I found was that Chris Matheson's dad, Richard Matheson, famous sci-fi author, he wrote a book called Bid Time Return. I may have typed that down wrong, but it's where a man he time travels via hypnosis to visit a woman he found in an old photograph. And there was a movie based on that book called Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour, like in 1980, right? Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's so cool.
And then, of course, more recently, Harry Potter's used it, right?
Oh, Azkaban. Was that Prisoner of Azkaban?
Prisoner of Azkaban, that's right. Yeah. And then I did find something cool. In 2006, there was a book written called The Plot to Save Socrates, where time travelers try to prevent him from drinking hemlock.
Whoa! Nice.
That feels like that could be a Bill and Ted plot,
it
right?
Does. It
like,
does.
what if they realize, like, oh no, Socrates, he killed himself?
In Evan Dorkin, in one of his comic books, they realized that Lincoln was assassinated, and they went back and tried to save him. And then, the world went to shit, and they, sadly realized that Lincoln had to die.
Yeah. But, it's funny. One of my favorite time traveling TV shows, which I'm sure might be on your list, deals with that.
Yeah.
Not Lincoln so much, Kennedy though.
Right.
That was sort of the background on like fiction, and then you sort of had with that the rise of it in film, right? So 1921, a silent version of A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court was made, and then 10 years later they did a sound version of it, and then I think Bing Crosby did a version later. But that was, there you go,
right.
Some of your earliest films that ever deal with it. And then I think from there was nothing that really stuck out to me, but then you have the 60s come around and Doctor Who shows up.
Oh yeah,
right, and that's where you start laying the groundwork for a time traveling phone booth.
Yes, show. Yeah.
And of course the Planet of the Apes films.
Time travel, although Into the Future, which I guess the Time Machine was too, didn't it? The Time Machine, they went way into the future as well. Yeah.
And then of course Slaughterhouse-Five, the movie.
Yep.
Which is, I think, somewhat underrated.
It is underrated. I actually have it on my list as
George Roy Hill directed.
Yeah. I put it on my list, which we haven't even talked about yet, just to mention Vonnegut and Slaughterhouse-Five and to get people to read that book if they haven't. But I assume if you're listening to this podcast, you've read Slaughterhouse-Five. So I'll shut up now. Something else that we talked about with Noel Murray, which I would like to maybe parse out a little bit more with you, is the rules for time travel. And the various rules, there seem to be some commonalities, but, obviously in Bill and Ted, it's pretty fast and loose, and they kind of poo-poo the rules. The only real rule that's laid out is that the clock in San Dimas, or the present where you're from, never stops ticking.
Right, it keeps going.
But they almost automatically just figure out a loophole with that by figuring out that they can do things in the future and come back to the past to fix it.
Right.
So,
right, and where they time travel without actually doing any time traveling.
Right, they're just like, we'll go in the future and we'll do this thing.
Yep.
I don't mind that, because time travel in and of itself is a little bit of a ludicrous proposition, right?
Yep.
And so the first thing anybody's going to say is like, time travel can't work like that because of this logical fallacy or this paradox that will be created.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with a comedy or some sort of entertainment, it's neat if you have a way to get around that quickly where you don't have to think too much about. On the other hand, I do appreciate a film that tries to take it as seriously as possible and parse things out. As we talk about our favorites and go through our top lists here, maybe let's just see if we can parse out some of the rules.
Yeah, we can think about the rules there.
Yeah.
Okay. The first movie I have here, it ended up on both of our lists. 12 Monkeys.
Yep. All-time Stone Cold classic.
Right. Pretty sure we saw that at the Indian Lake Cinema.
Yes. Saw it together. It was great. I saw it a couple times in theaters.
Yeah.
I love that. Terry Gilliam is just...
Bruce was still at the top of his game. Brad Pitt was... This was long-haired Brad era, right?
Yeah, this is like
Legends of the Fall. He was probably like right after that, right?
Right. And this introduced me to the idea, although he had done Californication beforehand, of the duality of Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
If he is an ugly character or kind of a vile character, the movie's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
If he's just a very handsome man, it's not going to be as good.
The only counterpoint I have is a river runs through it. It's
Okay.
Fantastic film.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I slept through that one, but I'll take your word for it, dude.
All right, so with 12 Monkeys, let's talk about the rules that were laid out there. Time travel seemed very scary. The government completely controls it, right?
Yes.
They're sending prisoners back to try to correct this plague that has wiped out.
They're not even trying to
most of
correct it. They're
humankind,
just
right?
trying to like find out information.
Find out information.
Yeah.
Figure out who did it.
So that they can change things in the future.
Right.
Because according to the rules, you can't actually change the past.
Okay.
Nothing you can do can change the past. And that actually tends to pan out.
Right.
You know, like, even though he tries to do things, it's all for naught.
He's always had this vision. What was great with that movie, spoiler alert, is that, he watches himself die.
Yes.
And that's a vision that he has from being a kid, and then it comes back at the end, right?
Yeah. And it's just,
the beginning is the end.
It's so good. So good. So I think the main rule is you can't change anything.
Yeah.
And that they don't blow that. Like, that is a solid rule and it turns out to be true, which is very, very cool. Mm-hmm. What'd you have next?
All right, so another one I had was the classic Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Really, we can just discuss probably most of the Terminator universe, though the universe is a lot bigger than I'd like to think of it. I'm really a first two films kind of a guy with this. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, the third one was forgettable at best. I saw...
Don't get me started on the Christian Bale one.
Was that Salvation? I never saw Genesis. Although the preview for the new one...
Yeah.
It looks promising. I mean...
They're trying to go Logan with Terminator now?
Yeah, and I'm here for it.
It's fine. It's whatever. I'll give it a shot on whatever streaming service it's on.
Mackenzie Davis is in it, though.
Okay. All right.
Catch Fire.
I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
All right.
Yeah. And Linda Hamilton's back, so I'm all about it.
So rules there, some things that were interesting. When you time travel, you can't wear any clothes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
that's true.
You're naked wherever you show up.
But you get to keep your hair.
Get to keep your hair.
Yeah, I would assume, like, if you can't keep your clothes, then all of your hair would fall off as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And you might be, like, totally exfoliated. Anything that was on you that was, like, a dead cell
just
would
completely radiated.
Right. Not the case, though. Not the case. But, yeah, you're traveling nude.
You come out looking like powder.
Right.
And so what else did we have there? We had with that one, you could go back in time and change things.
Yes.
Supposedly. Now... Sort of what they did with their sequels was kind of undo that. So by the third one, which not a good movie, but really I think the basis of that was that what happened in the second one just put off the end of the world like however many years later.
Right, it turned it from like hardware to software, right? So it was basically software with Skynet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so...
But just as an action movie, I mean, one of the greatest action movies of the 90s.
Absolutely.
Great soundtrack.
Really good performances. Really good performances. And as far as...
The apex of Edward Furlong.
Yes. The T-1000, those special effects were just amazing for the time. And that film really...
That morphing effect that they did, which I could be wrong here, but I feel like that was debuted in the Michael Jackson black or white video. That's the first time I remember seeing that, which aired as a special after The Simpsons,
on
right?
Fox, yeah.
On Fox, yeah. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's the first time I remember seeing that, and it predated T2, but feel free to correct me, Internet.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that because, I wonder which did come first. Man.
Yeah. We'll check it out. I might be completely wrong.
Well, that's something to either pat ourselves on the back for or scold ourselves for next episode, for sure. Okay, what else?
To get a little less serious, I had Flight of the Navigator, which I look back with such warm nostalgia.
Yeah.
And I feel like that movie had a little bit of a dark touch, which I kind of dug when he realizes he's in the future. And this one was done in a way where he like falls down a ditch, hits his head, passes out, wakes up, tries to go back home, and suddenly he's, I forget how many years into the future, 10 or 15, something like that. That scene is so great because there's sheer horror in this little kid's face.
I remember being a kid and being frightened as hell. I mean, that was so scary. And I was like, oh my God, what would happen if I were in that situation? That would be tragic. And just think about it now, like the terror that the parent, the mother feels, right?
Yeah,
like,
God. The look on her face.
Oh man.
Those actors sold it nicely.
Yeah, they did.
And then, of course, spoiler alert, it's an alien spaceship that does this to this kid, and he's taken to NASA. Like the whole sequence where he has to go to NASA, and Howard Hesseman, I believe, is the NASA scientist.
Yeah.
From what was his TV show where he was the teacher?
That was Head of the Class.
Head of the Class.
Yep.
A classic.
Yep.
And Sarah Jessica Parker, one of the first movies that I can remember seeing her in.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the famous voice of the alien ship, Paul Rubens.
Yes.
And I guess not the voice for the whole time. It's like he goes into a mode at a certain point, and then it becomes like Pee Wee Herman's voice.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was, I thought was pretty cool.
Nice.
But yeah, I think it's a good movie. It's a little bit lighter. There's some drama. There's some comedy.
And it's also that great 80s kid thing where it is a little dark, when the films were not as scared to scare children or to have some very frightening things going on.
And I thought for the time the effects were pretty good there with the ship.
Oh yeah, the ship looked really cool.
The way the steps would kind of melt off, they had no support.
Yep.
I guess a couple years after that, you get Back to the Future 2 and the hoverboard, right?
Right. Yep.
Which, oh man, everybody wanted a hoverboard.
Oh yeah, of course.
All right, so Flight of the Navigator. Another comedy I had on here, I don't know if you've seen it before, is Hot Tub Time Machine.
I have seen Hot Tub Time Machine.
I just thought that was a great irreverent comedy and a really creative, funny way to do time travel. Something closer to the vein of Bill and Ted, right?
Sure. Maybe way more mean-spirited, but...
True. Definitely more mean-spirited.
But using the humor of time travel, really neat. Really neat idea.
I don't recommend the sequel.
I avoided it. I avoided the sequel. I avoided it.
And then the last one I had on my list was Looper, which I think is a lot closer to 12 Monkeys.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also same actor.
Yes. So Looper, because I don't think there's really rules with Hot Tub Time Machine.
No, there's no rules, and that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah, and like Flight of the Navigator, I don't really recall there being any like hard and fast, you can't do this if you're time traveling.
Yeah, to go back on Navigator, he had to like go so fast and try not to get zapped by lightning or what. It was maybe it was closer to the Superman rules.
Yeah, probably
so
was.
There you go.
Yeah, Looper. Things in the past did have a direct consequence to things from the future or things in the present. So the end of that, he ends the thread against the lady and the boy at the farmhouse by essentially killing himself.
Would you consider some of that to be kind of the butterfly effect a little bit? Where you alter one thing and then with Back to the Future 2, the Biff timeline, right?
Right.
It gets changed because of one little thing you did. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Looper's the greatest example.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's butterfly effect, because butterfly effect is more like, you change this small thing and then there's this huge unintended consequence somewhere out of left field. And you're like, oh, holy shit, I stepped on that. So I think with Looper, it's more of a direct.
Yeah. Okay.
Like at the end, spoiler alert, Joseph Gordon-Levitt shoots himself, which kills Bruce Willis, who is also Joseph.
I think we just realized that Looper is 12 Monkeys.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's definitely a rule. I haven't seen that recently enough to know if there are others, other rules from that, but that was such a good movie.
Yeah.
Such a good
Unlike The Butterfly Effect.
Right, which
terrible
was
movie.
Not such a great movie. Yeah, okay, so let's see what I got on here that you did not touch. I did have Slaughterhouse 5 on mine, but more just to recommend the book. The movie's cool, but definitely read the book first.
And again, to reiterate, being Billy Pilgrim is unstuck in time. It's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, it's so good. So I had Primer on here. Have you seen Primer?
Primer, yes.
I mean,
fantastic.
That is a movie that really drills down onto the rules and consequences of traveling through time. I've seen it 3 times. I'm still not sure that I've got all of the threads everywhere. I've seen charts online, but oh man,
time travel destroys relationships, right?
It does. And then the other one that I have that has not been mentioned, and this, let me ask you if you think this movie is a time travel movie.
Okay.
Arrival. Because the main character in that essentially becomes unstuck in time like Billy Pilgrim.
You're right. Okay.
So, it's science fiction and it plays with the timeline, but it's more like her consciousness and understanding the future and the past and knowing how things are going to play out. And
not unlike a certain television show.
Absolutely.
Might have done.
Yeah. So, I adore adore Arrival.
Yeah.
I think it's phenomenal. And I think it's close enough to time travel to be warranted in the top 5 list. But I don't know. I would say the rule there is the 12 Monkeys rule where you can't change anything.
Okay.
Nothing you can do will change anything. It's all going to happen how it's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great that we matched up like a couple of movies on the list like we knew we would.
Who knew the two guys who've known each other for basically 30 years? And shocking. So I'm sure like our television lists are going to be completely different.
So we couldn't do this without mentioning TV as well. One of your favorites is one of my favorites, along with the Bill and Ted movies. This was right there when we had first become friends, and that's Quantum Leap.
Yep.
And the idea of putting right what once went wrong, actually changing the past.
Right.
And that show, I haven't gone back and rewatched, probably since the 90s. So I have no idea how dated it would be now.
Oh, it's so dated. It is so dated. But it's essentially like a sci-fi touched by an angel, right? It is not aged well from what I've seen. But not for the reasons that you might think. I don't know. So one, you have basically a white savior thing going on where you have this guy going back and entering the body of like a black person during Jim Crow era, and
right. They had that episode where it was essentially Driving Miss Daisy, right?
Yep. Yes. So a lot of it is very hokey, but I think the good episodes still really land.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the best series finales I can recall ever seeing.
Yeah, top 5 series finale.
We talked about that. The year of that finale was kind of the year television died for me as an adolescent because we lost Quantum Leap, Cheers, and Wonder Years all in the same season.
Right. And it's just like, what do we do now? I'm not going out and dating girls, so.
Some of the concepts, it was like you could change stuff in the past, but they did reach a ceiling with that because what he was doing was tiny changes with ordinary people. And when they finally got around to having him leap into Lee Harvey Oswald, he couldn't stop the Kennedy assassination.
Right. And they played with that, and they're like, well, Kennedy was always supposed to die.
Yeah.
But in the world of the TV, of the series, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis had died as well, had also been assassinated. So the thing that he was able to change was save her life.
Okay.
Yeah. But that show, just one of my favorite time travel things. That show went a long way to making me the nerd that I am now.
One of the other ones I wanted to mention, but we can't talk a whole lot about because it's airing right now, is Legion. And they are playing with time travel this new season that's airing right now, and it is fantastic.
I got to get caught up.
It's one of the more original ways, and they definitely ignore rules. The rules that they do introduce are very original. I haven't seen before, so it's a neat reinvention of it, I think.
I'll get caught up, all right? Get off my back. I will get caught up.
And then finally, you knew I had to mention it, and it's the show Lost.
Yep.
Which, time travel was not a feature for the entire series. It was just in some of the later seasons. Really one in particular, but this idea of like, this wheel under this island that you push and then it makes it move. And basically the island kind of came unstuck in time there for a while. But what that show did do, and we talked about this with Noel Murray in our interview, it allowed you to revisit earlier scenes from the series from a different point of view. And that's a feature of time travel that Bill and Ted utilizes, that Back to the Future utilized, and I think is great. It's something that can play to great dramatic effect, like on Lost, but then great comedic effect in these movies.
Right.
And I know we've already confirmed in the third movie we're going to see that sweet Circle K scene again. So I can't wait to see how they do that.
I cannot either. I bet
it's going to involve a phone booth.
It better. That your 3?
That's my 3.
Okay.
That's my 3, yeah.
So I've only got 2 others that you haven't mentioned.
Okay.
And this first one I'm going to talk about, not all of it is about time travel, but when they did time travel, it was just excellent. Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. We can't talk time travel without talking Star Trek.
No, because it's a feature of the entire series. I mean, they do it everywhere. Yep. And The Next Generation, Yesterday's Enterprise, is one of my favorite episodes of television ever. It's great. And the way that they do time travel, they go through a wormhole and things change, and it's just so good. And that one you are able to, if I'm remembering correctly, because it's been a few years since I've seen it, you are actually able to go and make changes because what they ended up doing was making everything better. And they actually sent one of the characters that had died previously showed up and then stuck around in like it was cool what they did. It was very cool what they did. So when Star Trek does time travel, generally they do it very well. Even in the movies.
I enjoyed some of it in the movies, like First Contact, I thought
that
was done really well.
One of the better Next Generation ones.
Yeah.
As a kid, I loved Star Trek 4 with the whales.
Voyage Home with the whales. Yeah, that was fun.
That was more of a comedy than anything, you know, and that was kind of neat. And then the other one, which I will die on this hill because I love this show so much, DC's Legends of Tomorrow.
Okay.
It is all about time travel, and it is just the very definition of big, dumb fun. Skip the first season. It was kind of hot garbage, but after that, it is just a treat. It is just a treat. And they've got rules on there, but they're kind of fickle with their enforcement of them. But again, it's big, dumb fun, so you don't have to pay too much attention. And when they enforce it, it's for reasons, but God, it's so much fun. Just watch that show. Watch that show. You can watch it all on Netflix right now and get caught up. And it is so much fun. The Flash and the other DC shows, because I'm a DC nerd, they all have a few good seasons, but then they get way too self-serious. DC's Legend of Tomorrow goes the exact opposite way, and it's just so much fun to watch.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know, the fun thing with this exercise of kind of looking up a lot of this stuff is I just hadn't realized how often time travel has been done and how many different ways it has been done. Because you think sort of a time travel concept just gets beaten into the ground and it's old hat. But I don't know. I think I've changed my mind. Now Legion has helped me change that mind currently as far as the thing I'm watching right now. That's like, oh man, I'm thinking about this in a different way. But I don't know. It's a very malleable subject, you know. So kudos to all those ancient ones in the Hindu, Japanese, and Jewish mythology.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us this concept.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, we really owe Bill and Ted to them. So that is just fantastic.
So anything else?
Man, I think that's enough. This has been a real treat just to sit down with you and talk about this stuff and hash it out. I love that we got some new casting news today. Man, I'm just really, really stoked. Hopefully folks down in Louisiana are going to be safe.
Right.
Stay dry. And that the filming goes all right as well.
And I think it's time, you know, we thank our producer, Michael Leeds from We Own This Town, for producing this podcast. He's also newly engaged, so give him a congrats when you see him.
Nice. And Scott Bricklin and Scooby Tunes Music. I'm not sure about the marital state of Scott Bricklin, but I hope he's happy, whatever that is. Thank you, sir, for allowing us to use your most excellent song, Walk Away, for our intro and outro music. And Kelly, I think everybody should be excellent to each other.
Gotta go back in time.
Wonderful. Thanks, Wikipedia. I really wish we would have had that when we were in high school.
Right. Dude, can you imagine how stupid we would be now?
Oh, I mean, much stupider than we are, but I'm just thinking, like, how helpful it would have been in Mr. Jones's class.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Right? I mean, those fucking book reports.
Right.
Is that guy still alive?
I don't know, man. That's something makes me think there's no way. But
yeah. No way / man will never die.
Wherever he is, dead or alive, I hope he's got that medallion around him.
And I'd like to point out right now, we are talking about history reports that we had to do in high school.
Yes, all right.
Yeah.
Tag.